In this video, I wanted to talk about another theory that some TIs believe, and this theory is not extreme as you might think it is. I mean, it's extreme, but it's extreme in kind of more of a believable way than some of the other theories. Now, I personally don't believe this theory, but like I want to cover all theories. That's the point of the channel. Well, that's the point of me vlogging. So I want to cover all possible theories. So the theory is that basically, like, the gang stalkers are using some sort of technology against us that we may not even know exists. And maybe maybe it's like we're part of a government experiment. And this is probably actually one of the more common theories when you talk about gang stalking. Like, I think most TIs believe that we've been chipped, or they have some sort of weaponry that they can use against us in order to sort of get inside our head. So, like, first off, I mean, like, if you were set up by people that you trusted, I mean, it's very possible they could have, I mean, done something to you, and you wouldn't really know that they did something to you. So, like, if you were a part of a government experiment, like they wanted to, like, control your mind or get inside your mind, they could have planted something inside of you and that would allow them to do that. Or they could be using some sort of technology that we're not exactly sure exists, but it might exist. So Steven says that they could read his mind. Well, we know that we can read minds. We know the technology exists for that. Like, if they have developed a way of doing it, like maybe through radio waves or something along like those lines, like they could use maybe a signal or frequency or something, and they could tap into your thoughts or something. I mean, this seems pretty spaced out, but it's not to say that the government couldn't do that. Like, when you're talking about, like, when this guy was talking about, like, mind control and mind reading and that kind of thing, I mean, I think that it is possible for us to sort of use technology to do that. Like, there's probably the technology that could do that. Like, it's probably possible. I think I mentioned this in another recording. People who have prosthetic limbs can control their limbs with their thoughts. So if they can do that, then it doesn't seem unreasonable for us to assume that the government probably can do that, can get inside your head and read your thoughts. So what makes the whole Steven situation disturbing is that the government was responsible for the death of those people, and then the government turned around and tried to prosecute this guy after they did whatever they did to him. So they basically, so they made it, they got in his head with some sort of technology, either because he was chipped, or they have the ability to, like, use some sort of frequency or radio wave, some sort of, I don't know, some sort of way of getting inside this guy's head. So, and they did something to him and made him do what he did, and then and now they're basically prosecuting the guy after they did what they did to him. So that's disturbing if true, but I don't personally believe that. I'm simply saying that could be a possibility if you don't believe in God. Like, obviously that can be a possibility. There are a couple of really good reasons why I don't believe in that. Like, I'm not saying that, okay, so they could do that. Like, let's assume they have that technology. Well, I mean, I think that spiritualism would allow you to overcome the psychological effects of it, if nothing else. So spiritualism would still be involved. But just think of this for a second. The government had the ability to get inside this guy's head, and they used it, so they corrupted his mind, and then he kills people, and then they prosecute him. So they're prosecuting him for something that they're responsible for doing. So the government is responsible for the death of those people, and then the government is responsible for convicting a person for crimes that they themselves committed. Because if they got inside his head and forced him to do what he did, then it was them who killed the people, not Steven. So I'm just saying that the government could have some sort of technology that they're using, maybe through some sort of maybe radio waves. I mean, I'm guessing maybe radio waves, like or Wi-Fi, or some sort of signal some sort of signal that they could get inside people's heads with, and maybe they could do that to everybody. I don't know. I mean, we just don't know the scope of the situation, or they could have chipped people. I don't really know. I've been thinking about the Stephen Mardo situation actually quite a bit, and I understand that not everybody's going to believe that God or the devil is responsible for all the supernatural stuff that's going on. And I mean, I'll give you that. I mean, we can't guarantee, I can't guarantee anybody that it's actually the demons that are reading people's thoughts. Like, I couldn't guarantee that. Like, I'm not really even going to go as far as to say that I know that. So I mean, but I think that like the spirituality element, regardless, would still be helpful to people, because if nothing else, you would get past the psychological parts of it. Like, imagine how disturbing it would be if the government was doing that to you, like how that would affect you psychologically. Like, that's why a person like him would snap and do what he did, because we're not designed to be able to deal with this sort of situation as a human being. Like, the psychological elements of this would be overwhelming. Okay, so that's basically why I've been really sympathetic to what he was saying, because if they're trying to say that they can get inside your mind, that is probably the most psychological damaging thing that could ever happen to a human being. Your thoughts are no longer yours, and they're no longer private. So it's a violation of everything that you are. I mean, it's like the most grievous attack upon the human psyche that any person could possibly do. It's right up there with physical torture or something along those lines. So I mean, it would make sense. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, the government is so evil now that I don't know if maybe the Antichrist. I mean, I don't know. I mean, the Antichrist would be evil enough to be thinking that, it would do that to a human being. Like, the Antichrist is so evil that, yeah, the Antichrist possibly could be responsible. But, like, there are people who definitely believe that this is technology that is being used against us. And there are people who are thinking, well, it's probably spiritual, okay, because, like, with me, I'm pretty sure spirituality is playing a role in everything, even if the government was using technology. Like, I don't know how and I talked about this in another recording, I don't know how they're doing it. Like, I never claimed that to be 100% sure of anything when it comes to how they're doing it. We just know that they have the ability to do it. So the government could have either did something to you in order to make you the way you are, or they could have just, I don't know. I mean, they could be using a signal or something. I mean, I don't know. All I know is that it's been proven that the government does have technology that can read your thoughts, and they're saying they're using it for medical reasons. But I mean, it's the government. How long before they weaponize it? If you think that the government is going to have some technology that they can weaponize, and they're just not going to weaponize it, you're a fool. I mean, they weaponize all technology. Any technology that can be weaponized, they will weaponize it. I mean, it's that simple. I mean, what's evil about the situation is that they're using it against their own citizens because they're evil. Obviously, it's pretty evil. I mean, so many, and this is why I talked about the Romans chapter, because the government has infiltrated church. So this evil, whatever this evil is that is surrounding us, is infiltrated the church. And I understand that some of you guys are really sensitive to what they've been telling you. It's hard to accept the fact that you've been lied to by people you've trusted. But the point of gang stalking is to show that everybody is lying to you, really, and even especially the people you trust, because you really can't trust anybody. So when you guys go to the church and they tell you stuff, you just take their word for it, because they have their position, and you assume that since they have their position, they know what's best, or they know what's right. So I kind of wanted to say this, okay? Unfortunately, one thing the gang stalking proves is that you can't trust anybody. I mean, if you think about it, all these institutions that you see around me are conspiring against me. So how much can you trust the church or any other institution if you know that they're doing all this stuff behind closed doors? They're doing this stuff. So you've been taught a whole lot of things that are just lies, and it's hard to accept that. So I'm just saying, what my conclusions are based off of facts. So I mean, it's not like I don't have evidence to back the conclusions that I reach up. So like when I say stuff, like when I say controversial stuff, I'm not trying to be edgy or anything. I mean, these are facts that are, if you did your research, you'd realize these facts. So I mean, you could take something and turn it into something else, or you could take it at face value, and it's your choice. And as far as like, like with when I say Jesus is a God or something along those lines, like if the Christian community could be in an uproar over that, and I could care less because I know it's the truth because it's in the Bible. If you read it, you'd have to read it, and you would see for yourself that it's in there. And when I say that there's like literally hundreds of passages that talk about this, I am not even exaggerating. So that's one example of how the church and other institutions are misdirecting us and teaching us things that simply aren't true. There's no basis for the claim that Jesus is God. There's no basis for it in the Bible. Not even nothing. Every single passage, everything that he says suggests that he is saying that he is not God and that God is a separate entity. So that's proven. I mean, he's every passage. So just, I don't want to get back on this topic, but basically Jesus is the right hand. He's on the right corner hand side of God as a son. So there is a Holy Trinity technically, depending on how you look at it. So Jesus is on the right hand side of God. God is of the Father, Jesus is the Son, and then there's the Holy Spirit of God. And it's super complicated, but Jesus is a separate entity from God, and that's very clear in the Bible. And I'm not going to talk about it anymore unless somebody brings it up. But the point is that just like everything else, people are not being honest with us. They're controlling the message, and they're controlling how we think, and they're controlling everything. And maybe they consider us a threat because they think that we're going to start telling people the truth, and they don't want people to know the truth, because if people knew the truth, they lose control, they lose power. So I want you guys to understand that the conclusions that I reach are based off of facts, and I can prove these facts because, it's easy to prove them if you did your research. All you got to do is your research. I mean, it says it. And it's, if you trust the people of the institutions to not lie to you, then I'm not going to try to overthrow that. I'm simply telling you that I know that I'm right. Especially when it comes to stuff like, what I just posted in the Bible. About the Bible, especially that. I'm 100% sure that neither Jesus or anyone else suggested that Jesus is God. And that is just the God-given truth, man. So it has nothing to do with being saved. It has nothing to do with being saved. You are saved through Jesus Christ's grace, and everything that is said is accurate, and you go through the same process of being saved. You have to accept Christ and everything. No one is suggesting otherwise. I'm simply saying that he is not God, and he says that he is not God, and he says it numerous times. He basically, in the Bible, it says directly that God created Jesus Christ. That's actually in the Bible. So I just want you guys to do your homework before you reach conclusions, okay? He says that he created God. God created Jesus Christ. That's literally in the Bible. It says it just like that. He said he was manifest by God, created by God, okay? Basically manifest is to say to create out of, will into existence. He was willed into existence by God, and that's a direct quote from the actual Bible. So God directly tells people that Jesus is his son, and he created Jesus. These people are lying to you about everything, because this is a conspiracy. It's some sort of evil conspiracy, and it's basically connects into every single institution in the United States and probably the entire world. So I don't know if I should make another video to just reaffirm what I said, or if I should leave it there. But yeah, so that and everything else, like I said, I think that, it could be some sort of technology. I don't want to get sidetracked. So I think that maybe we should also consider this possibility. With that said, let me go ahead and close.